Here in Michigan and elsewhere, with kids home for the summer, it leaves a lot of time for social media. Kids are spending many hours on Roblox, Snapchat, TikTok, and so much more. And the worst part, they're unsupervised. Even without an outright ban, there are steps that you can take as a parent to protect your kids from online predators. Joining us in studio to talk about this is Melanie Richards. She's the director of Kids Talk Children's Advocacy Center. And it's so good to see you. Thanks for joining us here tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate you for having me.
So we do have, you're hearing these other countries are saying, hey, we got to have a ban. You're hearing here in the U.S., we got to have better restrictions. But ultimately, all of it starts at home. So when you talk to, first of all, talk to kids, you talk to parents, how bad of a problem is it?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is kind of unknown. A lot of it is really difficult to track, especially if children don't disclose what's happening. What we know, it is increasing quite a bit. The most recent statistics are that 1 in 5 children each year will be solicited, have unwanted advancement sexual online. And then the other thing we know is there's about 50,000 predators at any time online looking for children.
That's terrifying. And the thing is, they're not just going to sites to lure people. They're going to places where kids already are. So yeah. When you say Roblox, describe that for people. And how do they get on Instagram and all these other apps? How does that whole process go?
Right. So I think that's part of the thing, right? Often youth are much more knowledgeable about the technology than some other generations. And so that's one of the big keys, is to learn about how the games work. If the children and youth and teens are really interested in something, take the time to learn about it and have them teach you how it works. A lot of the games have restrictions that you can put on, but knowing, can somebody talk to a stranger on there, somebody that they don't know? Do they have to friend somebody, and what does that mean? All of those things are really, really important. One
thing that you talk about at Kids Talk is making sure that you look at privacy settings together as a family, or grabbing your kid's phone and saying, let me check out the privacy settings. Why is that so important?
Yeah, I think it's really opening the lines of communication early and having those communication and those conversations frequently. So it's not one big sit-down conversation. It is many, many conversations, so that it becomes part of the everyday. Just as you ask children, how was your day at school? Did anything happen? It should be those same type of conversations with online, so that if anything happens, they know that line of communication is open, and they feel comfortable asking you.
When so many of us were growing up, your parents wanted to know who your friends were, who you were hanging out with. And so if you're out, going to so-and-so's house, they want to meet the parents, they want to know the kids. And that now is so hard, because you talk about this online community. Talk about that kind of familial enforcement to say, hey, we got to know who your friends are.
Yeah. So I think that's some of it. Again, what do the games allow? Can you have communication? And, sort of also to gauge where the children are. So if they are like, oh, I know them, do you know them in real life, or do you know them on the game? And how do you know, and having some of those conversations of, how do you know if that's person says who they are who they say they are online, and to just kind of see where the child is. So asking those, curious questions. And then also sometimes it can be a little bit more disarming to talk about a friend. If you had a friend that had this situation, how would you help them, or what do you think that they would do? And then you can learn and sort of correct as well. But again, the biggest thing is, technology is so important to so many children, and they're really afraid that if they make a mistake or something happens, that technology is going to be taken away. And that sort of discourages children from having those conversations. So, of course, there are, checks and balances and things, but again, it goes back to the conversation. And that's with, online predators, that's in real life predators, having those conversations and not to be worried about having those, and just kind of normalizing them, that any other safety, crossing the street and tornadoes, all those things.
What are some of the red flags that parents could look out for when it comes to problems brewing on people's phones?
Right. So I think some of it, again, if we can ask children, did anything happen, this week? And I use the term children lightly. It's obviously teens. And young adults, really. But I think if there's some secrecy involved, right? So potentially if you're on the phone, and if someone's on a phone or a tablet and you walk in and suddenly they put it away or change what they're on, kind of exploring that. If there's sort of things behind closed doors that, usually games are played in this room, but all of a sudden we're in our bedroom with the door closed. Things that happen maybe late night. What we know, these predators are extremely skilled at what they do, and things happen very slowly over weeks and months. And so it's not that really children fall for scams, it's that these predators manipulate and really, play on the children's developmental needs. They're just really skilled at what they do. So a lot of children don't even realize what's happening until it's too late.
And you also say Kids Talk as asking age-appropriate questions. So having the conversation in a way that isn't robotic, but rather that's appropriate to your child.
Yes. So I think, sometimes you don't need all the nitty-gritty details. You can just sort of, give enough information. But again, sort of normalizing those conversations to have them, and sometimes it can be asking, what would you do in this situation? And that really gives you a good understanding of where the child are and what maybe information you either need to seek together. And so I know you talked about earlier about, checking the phones, and also if it's maybe not always in a punitive way, that, this is just some part of our routines. Do you know your children's password? Can you check it? Do you check it together and say, oh, show me what you've been doing this week? And a lot of those things, again, hopefully will help make the internet a safer place.
Well, I know the Kids Talk and the Guidance Center, they do so much work in the community to help in a million different ways, and this is just one way that you're helping us by staying up late with us here tonight at 10 and having that conversation with a lot of moms and dads who would benefit. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. So appreciate it.
Great to see you.